Never break an empath. The consequences are brutal. Few people realize the kindest person often carries the deepest emotional pain. An empath does not just care about people. They genuinely feel the emotions of everyone around them. They notice pain that others completely miss. They comfort people while quietly ignoring their own suffering. Because they forgive so easily, many mistake them for being weak. People assume an empath will never walk away. They believe endless patience means endless tolerance. That assumption destroys more relationships than people realize. The truth is that empathy requires incredible emotional strength. It takes strength to stay kind after repeated disappointment. It takes strength to forgive someone who keeps hurting you. It takes even greater strength to keep believing people can change. But every empath has a limit. They simply reach it much later than everyone else. Unlike most people, empaths rarely explode in anger. They usually suffer in complete silence. They hide their tears behind smiles. They carry emotional burdens that nobody notices. They continue giving even when they feel empty inside. That hidden pain slowly becomes emotional exhaustion. One disappointment rarely breaks an empath. It is hundreds of small disappointments that slowly change them. Every broken promise leaves another invisible scar. Every ignored feeling adds another layer of pain. Every act of disrespect becomes emotional weight. The burden keeps growing even when nobody sees it. Most people only notice after everything changes. That is why breaking an empath is never sudden. It is a slow process that happens over months or years. The biggest strength of an empath can also become their greatest weakness. They always try to understand before they judge. When someone becomes cold, they search for the reason. When someone becomes rude, they look for hidden pain. When someone disappoints them, they make excuses instead of leaving. This compassion keeps relationships alive longer than they should. Empaths constantly believe people deserve another chance. Sometimes they give far too many chances. While others walk away after one betrayal, an empath stays. They hope love can heal what respect cannot. Unfortunately, hope often keeps them trapped. Many people begin expecting endless forgiveness. They slowly stop appreciating the empath's kindness. Instead of respecting their patience, they take advantage of it. The relationship quietly becomes one-sided. The empath keeps giving. The other person keeps receiving. Over time, the balance completely disappears. The empath becomes everyone's emotional safe place. Friends bring them problems. Family depends on their support. Partners expect endless understanding. Everyone unloads their emotions onto them. Very few people ask how the empath is actually feeling. Strong people are often assumed to need no support. That assumption is incredibly damaging. Even the strongest hearts become exhausted. Emotional burnout never happens overnight. It grows quietly through constant emotional pressure. One difficult conversation drains them a little more. One ignored boundary drains them again. One more disappointment slowly empties what remains. Eventually, they begin feeling emotionally tired all the time. They enjoy conversations less than before. They spend more time alone. They stop reaching out first. They stop trying to fix every problem. Most people think they are simply busy. The truth is far more serious. The empath is protecting the little energy they have left. This is usually the first warning sign. Unfortunately, almost nobody notices it. People only notice when the attention disappears. They only notice when the effort stops. By then, the damage has already been done. Another major change quietly begins. The empath stops explaining their feelings. Earlier, they tried everything to be understood. They communicated honestly and patiently. They explained their pain again and again. But nothing truly changed. Eventually, repeating the same words feels pointless. Silence becomes easier than another disappointing conversation. Many people misunderstand this silence. They think everything has finally improved. In reality, the empath has stopped believing change will happen. Their hope slowly begins disappearing. Their emotional investment quietly fades away. They are no longer fighting for the relationship. They are preparing themselves to survive without it. And that is the moment most people completely miss. The final breaking point almost never comes from one dramatic event that changes everything overnight. Instead, it is the result of countless disappointments that quietly accumulate over months or even years. Then one day, something inside the empath changes forever. They stop chasing people who never truly chose them. They stop begging for the love, effort, and respect they freely gave to others. For the first time, they decide to protect themselves instead of protecting everyone else. This decision rarely comes with anger or revenge. It usually arrives with a deep sense of emotional clarity and acceptance. The empath finally realizes that love alone can never repair a one-sided relationship. Understanding someone's struggles does not excuse repeated disrespect or emotional neglect. That realization becomes the turning point that changes everything. The empath grows noticeably quieter than before. They stop explaining feelings that have already been ignored too many times. They stop repeating conversations that never created real change. Their silence is no longer a cry for understanding. It is the beginning of complete emotional detachment. Most people completely misunderstand this stage. They assume the relationship has finally become peaceful because the arguments have stopped. What they fail to realize is that the empath has already started letting go emotionally. Day by day, they slowly reclaim the energy they spent trying to save everyone else. They stop carrying responsibilities that never truly belonged to them. They stop sacrificing their own peace to make someone else comfortable. For the first time in a long time, they choose themselves without feeling guilty. This is where the real consequence begins. Many people believe anger is the strongest reaction. In reality, indifference is far more powerful than anger ever could be. Anger still shows emotional investment and hope for change. Indifference means the emotional connection has quietly come to an end. Once an empath truly detaches, they rarely return as the same person. Their endless patience slowly disappears. Their constant emotional availability begins to fade. The person who always listened now protects their own peace first. The person who always forgave becomes much more selective about who deserves another chance. Only then do many people finally realize the value they had all along. They suddenly miss the kindness they once ignored. They miss the loyalty they casually took for granted. They miss the emotional safety they assumed would always be there. Sadly, regret usually arrives long after the empath has already healed. While others are just beginning to fight for the relationship, the empath has already accepted its ending. That is one of the hardest truths about human relationships. People often recognize someone's true value only after they lose access to it. The absence of an empath speaks louder than years of unappreciated kindness. Their silence creates a space that can no longer be ignored. What feels sudden to everyone else has actually been happening inside the empath for a very long time. Healing brings one final transformation that changes every future relationship. The empath develops strong boundaries instead of endless tolerance. They learn that kindness should never come at the cost of their own well-being. They stop making excuses for people who repeatedly ignore their feelings. They expect consistent effort instead of empty promises. Their heart remains deeply compassionate, but it is now protected by wisdom and experience. The experiences that once broke them become the lessons that make them stronger. They still love deeply, but they love much more carefully than before. The greatest lesson is surprisingly simple. Empathy is an incredible strength, but even the strongest heart has limits. Patience should never be mistaken for permission to keep hurting someone. If there is an empath in your life, appreciate them while they are still choosing to stay. Because the people who love the deepest often leave the quietest. And by the time their silence is finally understood, they are already gone.